Hello, everyone. Hello, Mama.
Hello,
Angelique.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to hear
Yeah.
from you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Where are you?
I'm in Accra.
Excuse me, huh? Mm.
I'm in Accra. I was trying to come. I was talking to you the other day, and when you said you were in Benin, I was like, hey, I need to come back.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah. I write new songs in Benin. So the
I need
energy. Say again?
I need to hear those.
Yes, yes. I recorded some spiritual songs
Ooh,
in
hear it.
Wida.
Excuse me, I want to hear it, baby. I'm telling you.
I'm gonna play them for you physically. I'm not gonna
Oh,
send them to you.
perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So are we starting this talk or how do we do this? Is if John Schaefer here?
It sounds like John Schaefer is just having some technical issues. We're still trying to get him on. Something's going on with his phone. But feel free to keep chatting as we wait for John. Oh, it looks like he's here actually right now. Let me just add him.
Hey John. So how do we organize this? We waiting. Mr. Easy and myself, we all yours.
Can you hear me?
Do.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, John.
Okay, great. How you doing, Angelique?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
Okay. And do we have Mr. Eazi with us?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, John. I'm good. How are you?
Nice to speak with you. Yeah,
Likewise.
sorry about the delay. Technical difficulties. So are we on? Are we good to go? Or
Yeah, we good to go.
all right. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. And again, sorry for the delay. I'll start with some introductions. I'm John Schaefer. I host the long running radio program New Sounds here in New York at WNYC Radio. And our guests, as you know, are both stars of the African music scene, Angelique Kidjo, born in Benin, but, really kind of a citizen of the world at this point. She's a neighbor of mine here in Brooklyn, but is also based in Paris. That's where she's joining us from. And Mr.
No,
Eazi, huh?
Benin.
What was that?
I'm joining you from Benin.
Oh, you're in Benin. Oh,
Yeah.
very good. And I was told you'd be in Paris. Okay. Mr. Eazi is next door in Nigeria.
No,
Singer, songwriter, mentor
in
to a mentor to a whole
you
younger
think
generation of African musicians, and it's great to have the two of you here. Let me start, Angelique, with your album Mother Nature because it's full of collaborations, mostly with a younger generation. So, what was the idea behind that?
well, the idea behind that is writing all of us a love letter to Mother Nature, and also my concern about the climate change. We African continent, the continent of Africa, and we African countries in society, we'd be paying the biggest price for climate change, but we didn't participate in the climate change issues. So how do we talk about it? How this young generation can help also talk about climate change and the other issues that we have, the image of our continent, the challenges and the song that we did, Mr. Easy, it start with a DM message from Mr. Easy to talk about the beauty of our continent together. Mr. Easy can talk more and better about that than I can do. It's just for me. It's always about how do I pave the way and allow other people to thrive. I'm a citizen of the world, as you say, but my continent is always at the heart of what I do. And I always say to people around the world that the continent of Africa has most, I mean, some of those amazing creators, artists, and I can speak for them. I want the young generation to speak for themselves, and let's do this together to be I would say the driving force of change in our continent. And Mr. Easy can speak about the song too if he wants to.
Go ahead, Mr. Eazi.
Yeah, I mean the it was a pleasure. I remember, we started making the record in can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yep,
can hear
yep.
you.
All right, great. I remember we started making the record. Actually, we started making the record in LA with Blood Pop, and then my very good friend and frequent collaborator Carlo. Um, I sent her the record. Immediately I heard the record, it reminded me of, the legendary Africa, and I just felt like that was it. Immediately I heard the first guitar string. And when Carlo came back with the lyrics for the record, I just knew it had to be. The first thing in my head was I was thinking, okay, this is a song I put out when I'm 10 years in the game. Like, it's usually when, like, some of my mentors is usually like when they're 10 years and above in the game, then they put out songs like this. So I thought it was going to be a record that's going to be on a later part of my career. And then one day I was there, and Kel-P, who ended up producing the final version, the final version of the record, I met him and he said, "Hey, Angelique is recording an album and she's actually down to work with um, younger artists, and she wants to work with you." And I think me and Angelique and I had DM'd once or twice because obviously I've been a huge fan, you know, growing up, in Nigeria, growing up in Songwater. We used to have this station called MITV and AIT, and they would just play Angelique songs back to back to back to back. So, you know, so I was like, hey, maybe I was like, why don't I shoot my shot? I say, hey, Angelique, I have a song for you. Because when I was thinking of the song and I heard she was recording an album, I said, this is the opportunity to have this song. So I sent it to Leak, and I was so happy when she came back. She's like, yo, I love this record. And then we worked it. I think the most shocking part was having the legend from Mali actually sing Salif Keita instead of just sampling his
Hmm.
voice. I
Yep.
think that was iconic. And when I saw the video, I was like, wait a minute, this is actually me actually on the same record in my lifetime with Angelique and Salif. Usually this happens like later, and the message of the song, like Angelique was saying, is speaking about the beauty of Africa, because for a lot of time Africa has been sold as this aid continent, a
Right.
continent that always need aid. It's always images. I remember the first time I toured North America, I would see these ads come up where they will be, raise funds for children in Africa. I mean, that is part of a reality, but it's not the only reality. And so, the song was and is a way to pass that that message. You know.
Yeah. Now, Angelique, you're clearly aware of what's been going on. The Nigerian music scene has been super important. It's been a central player on the global music scene for decades, but recently it's just kind of exploded, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling you guys this for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes, yes, you have.
I even took the platform of the Grammys to say this, that the young generation that is coming from Africa and take the world by storm. And I remember people laugh hard when I was saying that at the Grammys. And I'm like, you might be laughing now, but wait a minute. This is gonna come sooner or later. You like it or not, that's gonna be the reality because of what I've seen. I've been to Nigeria many times, and I've met so many different African young artists. The creativity, the production that comes from Africa is top notch. Is as professional and as good as anything that can come from America. And for me, what Afrobeat means is this continent of ours with the Congolese rhythm, high life, the rhythm from Nigeria, it allowed us to have an identity, musical identity. For me, beat is for all over Africa. And we, as usual, we are welcoming people, but we want to call the shots. And that's what is going on. That's why we say the world by storm is about time we speak up for ourselves and do the music we want to do without no one, without apologizing and no one telling us what we have to do.
Mr. Eazi, it might be worthwhile to just step back a minute and explain the difference between Afrobeat without the S and Afrobeats with the S, because that one letter makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you go back, if you go back and say what a lot of times where people to speak about Afrobeat, and then without the S is usually in reference to what Fela pioneered and all the
Right.
awesome music he made. And big love to Femi Kuti, respect to Sean Kuti,
Hmm.
and the few others like I think Dede Mabiaku, if I stand to be corrected,
Well, and
and then
also Made Kute. So now it's Fela's
yes,
grandson.
And Madi as well. But at the same time, it's like the term Afrobeats, I guess, for my own with the S, basically started. I would expect from the UK. The first time I probably heard the word Afrobeats used to coin it with the S was probably there's this DJ that used to play at Capital Extra, and it was just used to basically express Afro pop. I don't and then there's been the interchangeable. Some people call it Afro pop, Afro fusion, Afro beat. But essentially, I think whichever name you decide to go by, it just basically captures, to a large extent, pop music that's coming from Africa. And there's Afro pop, there's Afro dance, there's Afro R&B.
Hmm.
Uh, there's this. I was with some guys from South Africa last week, Major League DJs, and they were playing me what sounded like electronic music, but it had piano drums. It had that dance South Africa drums on it. So I guess it's just the easier word that a lot of people from outside of the continent or from the diaspora have
Yeah.
used to coin just popular music coming out of Africa.
I mean, I would add to that that the S is also an inclusive S because Latin America have salsa and it's very, I mean, recognizable. Afrobeats allowed everyone in Africa, from north to south, to east to west, and beyond Africa, to be called, I mean, to be recognized. It's no longer African music anymore. It's no longer, we don't want the term world music anymore. Afrobeats represent all of us, the young generation from Africa, from all the African diaspora and beyond. Everybody is welcome. I mean, we have a form of music. If you look at the music history since we've started, I mean, blues come from the slave that left America. Without the blues, what will the music of America will be? Without the blues, what will the music of the world will be? So that's why, for me, the S by itself is a powerful statement about how Africa has been at the center of global music, actually, everywhere.
It's a really good point, Angelique. And when the Grammy Awards changed world music to global music, I'm not sure whether that did anything. It's when Burna Boy won the Grammy Award for Global Music Album earlier this year. I thought that record is as much a pop record as anything in the major categories. And to kind of, I mean, I wonder how the two of you feel about that, about you know being put into a different category simply because the music comes from that continent.
Well, it has always been. I mean, and today, because of this young generation of musicians asking to be at the table of negotiation, we start talking about it. I've been talking about this for, I mean, for decades. That is not because the music come from Africa that has to be seen as a third world music. We are the first world, and if you look, if absolutely, I mean, Africa is the cradle of humanity. And so many things come from Africa that we Africa don't take credit for. We are not proud of. And people recycle that and sell it to us as something new. And that thing we have had forever. And the way we are treated musically is the way we are treated economically and politically. As long as people will think that Africa deserves a different treatment, we are the continent that Africa is the richest continent on the planet. We don't need it. We have everything we need on our continent. But yet here we are always struggling for people to pay attention to what we do. And it's comfortable for people to put us in a category, not to see us as competitor or equal. That's where the problem comes from. As long as we are seen as second class citizens in every way, shape, or form, we'll have all those kind of different name or category to put us in because they cannot do without us, so therefore they have to find a category for us. I don't know what Mr. have to say about it.
I mean, for me, I just basically feel like, every form of, every time there's form of recognition adds like, it's a drop of water that makes the mighty ocean. But, a category in the Grammy does not add to the validation of, the music that, over 1.2 billion people are dancing to.
Mm-hmm.
and the economy behind it, and like, but hey, I feel it's left for the rest of the world to catch up to what's happening on the continent, and I can see the catch up is coming. It's the same way maybe 15 years ago there might have not been a lot of attention to what was happening in the Latin American spaces or in the K-pop scene, but we know the story right now, and I think that's where it will happen. It's just infrastructure that's left behind because you have the youngest continent, with over 60% under the ages of 30, and you have this upwardly mobile population, and music is not just a luxury, music is way of life. So for me, I'm not too fussed about, anybody's award categorization or what anybody decides to do. I think it's rather the world needing to catch up, and it's always beautiful when I see that, and when we see that, and like Mama said, she had always been saying it, and it's a catch up. I think it's the world catching up to what's happening because before this year, before last year, you've had African musicians from all parts of Africa, making albums, touring, selling out stadiums, traveling across the world and touring. There's been this scene, and it's about time the world caught up, but it will
Mm-hmm.
happen because the internet is making the world a smaller place. I put out a record and I see people in Japan. I put out a record and I see Japan is like the number 10 country that's listening to the record the most. And I'm like, hey, I've never been to Japan. I'm not speaking Japanese. The music does its thing, and the
Yeah.
dance culture, the culture of the African music scene sells it. So it's a catch up for the rest of the world. But for every time there's a recognition, and it's left to the bodies or the Grammys or whoever to catch up and catch up quickly. If not, they'll be left behind.
Your story about Japan, Mr. Easy, and you talk about you don't speak the language, but they're listening and dancing to your music. Let me ask the two of you this question. When you choose a language to sing in, and Angelique, we've heard you sing in numerous languages over the years, but even you, Mr. Easy, I mean, you have a choice to make, right? You can sing in Nigerian Standard English, you can sing in Pidgin from either Nigeria or Ghana. I mean, when you make those decisions, how much are you thinking about the audience and who you're trying to reach and how to kind of tailor the song to them?
Well, as I said, that question you have asked me, John, and many media in the Western have asked me when I was not even singing in English or Pidgin, that we don't understand what you're saying, but we're still listening. And
Yeah.
my reply is, we listen to the music that comes from all around the world in Africa. We never ask a question about which language it is. It's music. We can dance on it. We can listen and have fun and have pleasure listening to it. That's all that matters. Music is an universal language. We have 12 notes to express so much emotion. And emotion has no gender, no nationality, no color. And for me, it has always been the inspiration of the song to keep it as truth as it is, as it comes, and as I can sing it from the first day to the last day on my time on earth. As long as I can sing that song, is the right song for everybody on this planet. It's not a matter of language. I think it's much more a concept of the Western world to be able to put things in perspective. Africa is a continent, and people are expecting me to sing in an African language. What is an African language? We have millions of language all
Hmm.
around countries. So for us African, is a freedom, is a strength, is a power to be able to sing in different language and to bring it to the world for people to see the complexity of our continent.
I want to give Mr. Easy a chance to answer the question too, but Angelique, let me just push back a little bit because we started by talking about Mother Nature, and that there's a message there. You want people to know what it is you're singing about, right?
Oh yeah, in English and in my language, always there. It's always there.
All right, Mr. Easy, what about you?
I mean, for me, the way I create majorly is like it starts from the production. It starts from the
Mhm.
production, and for me, I hardly set out by writing a record. It's usually like a canvas where the instrumental or the guitar strings or the progressions is like a white plain canvas, and then I start by melodies, and just it's like the artist just painting, and you don't even know what you're gonna sing about. You don't know what language you're gonna sing on, but whatever those chords or those strings, those notes speak to me, it just connects with my spirit and brings it out. And I've seen where, I remember going. I give you this example. I remember going to somewhere around the time I blew up in 2016. I
Hmm.
remember going to Kumasi where I spent my university, and I went to this place called Bantama. That's where we would go have street parties, right? And so I sat down in Bantama. At the time, nobody knew me there. I was hearing all these records playing out in the local pubs, and I didn't hear one of my songs. But in Accra, I could hear like four of my songs or five of my songs playing. So I said to myself, hey, I want to make a song for Kumasi people. I want to make a song that they could play in these beer parlors. Then I would end up going to the UK, hooking up with Jules. We made a song called Anointing. But that song ended up being consumed by my fans all over the world because at the end, like Angelique was saying, the music is spiritual, the music is spirit language. So sometimes the rhythm draws you, and then when the rhythm draws you, you don't even, it's so weird, you don't even know what the song is about, but you could feel the emotion. When it's true, you could feel it. And then you find out that, what is this song about? When you find out what the song is about, sometimes it's so crazy that it's exactly the feeling you had when you heard the song. And that's the beautiful thing about the music. Like there's one of my idols. His name is Wande Cole. On one of his songs, he just goes to a burst of gibberish that doesn't mean anything. But like once I hear that gibberish, it means something. It means, hey, it's time to get down on the party and dance. And that's the beautiful thing about art.
Yeah.
So for me, I hardly say, hey, I want to make this song in 100% English. So I wanted my mom speaks. My mom is from Delta States. Is Igbo.
Hmm.
But it is at the end of the day who I am comes out on the record, and that's why on a record that you have me on, you would hear me speak English. You might hear pidgin. You might hear some tree. You might hear some Yoruba. You might hear some Igbo on just one record, because that's who I am, and I'm just expressing myself on the canvas.
So let me ask the two of you about your. I mean, we've been talking about your musical endeavors. Both of you have done things to empower younger people throughout the continent, and for you, Angelique, your Batanga Foundation has been something that you have been talking about and laboring at and trying to get attention for so many years. It probably did it feel like you had found another way of connecting with Mr. Eazi when you heard about his Empower Africa?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, Mr. Easy is one of those artists that people listen to, and sometimes what music does, and that we don't have any power, nor him nor me, is what it does to people. When you put the music out there, you might be feeling something. Your inspiration is something different. When it gets out there, it's like a child that's gonna grow wide or not at all, and it does touch people in different ways. And when I did the song Batonga, I never thought one day that I'm gonna call my foundation Batonga, because when I invented that word, it was because of the bully guys, the boys bullying me when I arrived in secondary school, telling me you don't belong, you belong to primary school, you should get married and not be here, trying to humiliate me, looking under my skirt, my dress. And my father was he was a true believer of non-violence, and he always used to say to me, your brain, your brain is your ultimate weapon. Use it. Those guys think that they are smart. They're smarter than you. Outsmart them. Come up with a word that push them back in the corner. So I came up with the word Patonga, which means get off my back. I will do whatever I want to do, and it's none of your business. And my foundation is about that, giving wings for those young adolescent girls and young women that live in the rural area where no one goes, when even the government don't even know what the struggles are. It's not because you're poor that you have no brain. And to help them start a life, not thinking that marriage and early pregnancy is the only option that they have. That they have dreams that can happen. They can participate economically. They can help the family get out of poverty, their community, and be part of the game of the country. And I'm seeing the result of it. You
Yeah.
give them a cheap funding to start a business, and it profited everybody, themselves, the family, and the community.
When you work with somebody like Yemi Alade, another great Nigerian artist, a woman from a younger generation, do you see that she has possibilities that your generation had to really, really struggle for?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to say, Yemi, Burna Boy, Mr. Easy, Tiwa Savage, all those young artists. What makes me so proud is that they are using internet to the best of it. When I started my career, I could not do anything without signing a record deal with a record company. And it comes, and every contract is 10 years that you
Mm.
have to, the first 10 years that you have to sign away. And of course, start making money when they recoup their cost before you start making money in any album. It's a completely different things today. Yemi, Mr. Easy, Burna Boy, all of them, Davido, Wizkid, they are their own entrepreneur, their own businessman, because internet has allowed them to have that freedom that I didn't have when I started my career. And that's what I see the craft. I see the smartness. I see how they stand for themselves, and because they don't need anybody to be able to speak for them, they speak for themselves.
And Mr. Eazi, tell us about Empower Africa and what the idea behind that movement is.
I mean, like, when I started Empower Africa in the beginning, I just wanted to, touring across Africa, I would see how, it's just like we're having this conversation now, and you'd hear people have conversations. And when they're talking about music coming out from Africa, they're maybe only speaking about music coming out from South Africa, a certain part of South Africa, or a certain part of West Africa, Nigeria, and not actually talking about music coming out from Africa. And then I realized that there was no platform where, I've been independent my entire career. I've never been signed to a record label. I've been signed to my own record label. I funded my entire career, self sustaining. And so for me, I felt like there had to be a place where there was limited barrier to entry for an artist from Kenya, from Zambia, from Zimbabwe to get onto. And I found out how crazy it was that, sometimes the beginning of your career could just be that music video. And so in 2018, when I dropped my last full and body of work, I wanted to give back. And so, I started the program of giving 100 artists from 17 African countries grants of $3,000 each to shoot audio visuals. And when I say grants, is that just like she was saying, there's no recoup. We basically selected 100 artists, funded the audio visuals, put them up on YouTube, and helped them kickstart their career. But I said, hey, it's beyond, for something to be sustainable, it's beyond aid. It's investment, right? And so just working through the first step, which was giving up the grants, I then realized that I then spoke to my team and said, hey, why don't we, I've proved the concept that it is possible for a kid from Songwater in the western part of Nigeria to start making music in a small studio in Kumasi or in Accra and put the music up on the internet and then put some digital marketing to it. And it's possible for that kid to become a global icon, a global superstar going on independently. And so I am the first proof of concept. And it's like, hey, in the future of African music, I want ownership of African music to be in the hands of African creatives. I don't want it to, there's no reason why it should be like Angelique's time where an artist had to sign a 10-year contract or had to give away their masters. And so I decided I said, hey, I looked around. There was no company that was doing that exact thing. So Empower Africa, it's a label services company, a company that I expect to be the most important company for African music in Africa, giving label services to independent African artists, African independent labels, and making sure the ownership, because I think it's really important for ownership of the IP to stay in the hands of African creatives. And that is not the case for a lot of some of our legends.
Yeah.
Some of the most culturally relevant African music is not owned by the creatives. And so I think in this age and time where the internet has opened possibilities for us and we can reach our fan base via the internet, the real gap, like Mama said, like you don't need to teach any kid in any part of Africa how to make African music that resonates to the 1 point something billion people. The equipments are there. The internet has, drop the barrier to entry. It's now left with the funding gap, and that's what Empower is doing now. Just really finding creatives, finding African creatives along the across the continent, working with African labels, offering distribution services, publishing admin services, and then also the finance. So, and we're not just doing it for now and the future, but we're also going back in time and picking up interesting catalogs and remastering, buying them back bringing them back to life, telling the stories of some of the music from the 60s, from the 70s. I think it's like that's, and that's why Empower is the name, because it's literally empowerment to creatives. And the last thing I'd say on this matter is, a lot of people speak about how big African music, especially coming from Nigeria, has been in the past 3 years, but it hasn't been funded, like the majority of it has been funded by African creative entrepreneurs, like myself, like say for instance, like Don Jazzy, and it's been us actually doing our thing and the fans, spreading it. So it's not being like, hey, some label put in $20 million to develop African
Right.
music. No, it's been done by African creative entrepreneurs. And so this is what we're trying to do with Empower Africa. So right now, as we speak, we're working with artists and labels from eastern part of Africa, from West Africa, from South Africa, and we're giving those advances. We are distributing the music. We are doing all the rights management. We are working with producers, getting them into opportunities to sell their samples on Splice, to work with artists from across the world. And in the future, it shouldn't be the case where somebody wants to make a movie about Africa and they want to make a soundtrack and they don't know, they don't come to the continent because they don't know who to reach to curate this soundtrack. It should be, when something like that wants to happen in the future, there are companies, not just my company, Empower Africa, but there are companies where they could go to and proper curation can be done. So Empower Africa is focusing only on African music from across the continent, and it's been a beautiful 2 years
Mm.
ride. We've made some amazing strides. A couple superstars come out through the company. So it's moved from the grant scheme. We don't do grants anymore. That was just where it was born out of, and now it's moved to a full-fledged label services company. I must say it's one of its kind that's a pure African focused label services and IP creation and protection company.
Well, and you're talking about when you talk about these Nigerian musicians who are independent entrepreneurs and they put their music out as you did, and it's the audience that finds it and spreads the word. That is the difference between a fad and a trend, because a fad is created from above and kind of forced down on us, and a trend sort of grows up naturally from ground level, and that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Angelique,
it's
go
I
ahead.
mean, it's so beautiful. Like, I put out a record last year with my very good friend J Balvin, one of the biggest artists in the world, right?
Yep, yep.
And that record was produced by a Nigerian producer in Nigeria, Killer Tunes, signed to Empower Africa. And then, we made that record happen, and we distributed that record via my label, Empower Africa. And for me, that is like a totem. That's like a symbol. That's better than any recognition from anywhere in the world, because what that means is that, hey, this same kid who started up in some corner backroom studio is now working with one of the biggest artists in the world and releasing the record independently via their own label. 100% ownership is staying with everybody who created the record. And this is just a sample of what's going to be happening from now and the next few years, where there was zero label involvement. It was all done by African young creatives, and the story of Empower Africa. And that's, very soon, like Mama was saying, in the next few years, there will be an African record that's the biggest record in the world that is not distributed by any traditional means, but is done via, it's produced homegrown production. The technology is there for all the distribution services, marketing, the energy of the diaspora, the energy of African fans, the way we treat music force is so strong. And by the time we start matching that force with the finance, it's and by the time all this infrastructure for cheaper internet, data penetration, smartphone penetration, by the time everything comes together, it's gonna blow up. I dare say even beyond K-pop or beyond what we're seeing in Latin America. And so it's very important for there to be companies like Empower Africa, companies like African owned, African focused music companies that are thinking of African creatives, making sure the ownership stays here, making sure the music is represented properly, and making
Right.
sure at the end of the day value stays.
So there's an infrastructure to support
100%.
this. Yeah. Angelique, I'm going to give you the last word. I mean, we've heard Mr. Easy's kind of vision of the future of African music. What do you, I mean, he refers to you as mama a couple of times because you really have been a kind of mother figure to a whole new generation of musicians. What are you looking for and hoping for in the future from them?
Well, I mean, what I'm seeing right now makes all my struggle and pain, humiliation, everything I've been through, worth it. Because that's the way it is. Some people have come before me, have went through that pain, and today to see this young generation so uplifting. I mean, the song one of Africa One of a Kind" is an up tempo to celebrate the up tempo of this continent, because Africa is never dull. Africa is never sad, sitting down around the corner complaining. We don't have time to complain. The only thing we have for is to move forward, whatever the situations are. And that's one thing that I'm really proud to see that this young generation is doing, and being their own entrepreneur. Because I've been a little bit worried when all those data companies start coming around in Africa. We need to keep our data. People can make money off our data. We need our all us African. We need to own our data and not giving it to any international company to decide what we have to do with ourselves. And I'm so proud of this young generation being so upfront about this, to be really courageous, to be themselves, to be imposing to the international world another way of seeing us in doing business. And when we say my Africa, 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 that's all those things that we say is what we come up about. No matter the wave, I will always rise for you. Come on, he's easy, sing with me.
I didn't know we were going to bust. I'll be here to save you, Superman, fly for you,
Uh,
because
Because
you
you are
are one of
one
a
of
kind. I'll always have you on my mind. Near or far, the others must be blind. Not see how special you are. You are Africa.
oh,
You are
you are
Africa.
hey,
We are
we are
Africa. Zagadat.
like that. And I love when he says like that. I say only you know what that means, but I love
Well, about 40 minutes in before Angelique started singing, I think that's the longest I've ever heard you go without singing, Angelique.
oh yeah, it's true. And I was just like, oh, I want to sing, boy, but it's okay.
Ah, well, so Mother Nature is out, this wonderful record full of collaborations with Mr. Eazi and a whole younger generation of great African artists. Mr. Eazi, Angelique Kidjo, thank you so much for being part of this Twitter Spaces conversation, and thanks to everybody who's been listening in.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for having us. Been a pleasure. Go
And have a
listen to
good
the
day,
album
everybody.
right now.
The
Absolutely. Mother Nature from
album,
Angelique Kidjo.
tweet about it, just share it, just whatever you want. Be happy. That's all I want. And dance, man. We don't write dull music. Mr. Easy and make his dance on. Forget your feet.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.
Bye. share it, just do whatever you want. Be happy. That's all I want. And dance, man. We don't write dull music. Mr. Easy and make his dance on. Forget your feet.
All right, bye guys.
Bye. Bye.
Say
Bye.